Dubai, we're good. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It always works the second time, even Fajr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulih al-Kareem. Amma ba'd. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, we are grateful, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every moment, every second of our life that He has given us to spend in the ibadah and the virtues and things that inshaAllah would be helpful for us on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our gathering an accepted one in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ilm that is nafi'ah and beneficial. Amongst the many supplications of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of them was, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an. O Allah, I ask you for knowledge that is beneficial. Because brothers and sisters, knowledge is either for us or against us. Either it is ilm upon our tongue, or either it is something that is within our hearts. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us ilm, knowledge that is beneficial, inshaAllah. And not only this, brothers and sisters, but we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us amalan mutaqabbal, actions that are also accepted as well. Not only keeping our words, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our words a reality and part of our lives itself. Because at the end of the day, what counts the most is our deeds that we have done. And may Allah also give us sincerity and ikhlas at the end of the day. May He make this only for His pleasure and only for His sake. Brothers and sisters, as we have been speaking from Friday night, and mashallah we have reached all the way towards Sunday morning, may Allah accept all of our gatherings. We have been talking about Pathway to Jannah, 9th year, and this year's theme is how to earn Jannah. A dream, a wish, a desire for every one of us that I hope, that I wish that I can be from amongst the people of Jannah. May Allah make us from amongst those individuals. What are some of the paths, what are some of the steps, what are some of the actions that we can all really take in order to become or earn the place of Jannah itself? So our topic for this morning, for this 1 hour actually, had three things to cover, but I'm going to try to shorten it to one subject so we can cover it completely and leave the two rest because we already covered some of those things already. So the topic itself was honesty, faith, and good deeds, right? These were the three things that we actually had to cover. With regards to faith and good deeds, we have been talking about iman, we have been talking about good deeds. In general, all of these are good deeds. But I want to talk about honesty, brothers and sisters, because it's so important because of the era and the time that we live in. So I'm going to take now less than an hour, about 45 minutes of our time, inshaAllah, and I won't delay you for too long, but I promise that it's important for all of us. Brothers and sisters, when honesty is lost, and this is important, that when honesty is lost, then wait for the day of judgment, the words of the Prophet ﷺ. When you see that honesty is not present in the lives of people, فَانْتَظِرِ السَّاعَةِ, wait for Qiyamah to begin any time. From amongst the signs, for all of us, we're waiting for Dajjal and Mahdi and all that stuff, right? A young guy would always ask about Mahdi, which in some tradition they say Imam Mahdi keeps on asking. So one young kid would come to the Imam all the time and says, one scholar says, where is Imam Mahdi coming? Where is Imam Mahdi coming? He says, brother, your local Imam is waiting for you in the masjid. Go find him first. Then look for the Imam Mahdi, So a lot of time we just want, when is the day of judgment? When is Dajjal? That's why Rasulullah ﷺ himself mentioned, when a person asked him about Qiyamah, the Nabi of Allah ﷺ said, what have you prepared that you are asking about Qiyamah, right? It's like a child asking, what is the test? What is the test? Have you prepared for the test? So now when we ask about Akhirah, what have we prepared? So when Rasulullah ﷺ said, when honesty is lost, when you see that there is no more honesty in the lives of people, then wait for the hour. Wait for the day of Qiyamah. And brothers, these are the words of the Prophet ﷺ, and they paint a picture of a time leading towards the day of judgment. When righteous people who have deen and religion in their life, will be sorrowful due to the lack of honesty around them. When people of Iman would have sorrow because there is no more honesty left around them. And brothers and sisters, we live in this 21st century, and we live in a world where honesty is valued, but yet at the same time it is shunned at the same time. People want honesty, but people don't want honest people. That's how the world that we live around. People say, oh, wish there was honesty, and we also at the same time shun honesty, that if you're too honest, you can't be successful. We live in a time that we really don't understand what's important and what is not. And we expect people to be honest in their dealing, yet we watch and we applaud televisions and movies and promote and encourage lying and deceitfulness in our lives. And that's what we are really promoting from our own actions. Even though we want honesty, but we're promoting all these other things in our lives. So without thinking, we are teaching our children that dishonesty is acceptable. We have to look into our own lives. That with our own deeds, we tell our children, with our actions, that dishonesty is perfectly acceptable. When we expect to tell our children, what do we expect to tell our children when we tell our own children to tell the caller that I'm not home? What sort of honesty am I teaching my children when myself sitting in the home is telling a child that tells someone that I'm not home? That's the foundations of our lives. When we're home and when we are refusing invitation from people, that we can a little bit try and go towards them and pretend that, you know what, I got a very busy schedule, I'm sorry, I can't come over. How can we inculcate honesty when we live in a life cycle like this? Whether we tell lies or whether we allow our children to live in this world surrounded by deceit, brothers and sisters, the lesson is learned and honesty begins to disappear from the hearts of the next generation. And it's happening slowly, and that's what Rasulullah said, it's the signs of the day of Qiyamah. Brothers and sisters, now honesty, when we talk about honesty, honesty incorporates the concept of truthfulness and reliability, both. When truthfulness and reliability all gets together in humankind and thoughts, that makes honesty. And honesty itself is not just the word honesty. Honesty is human thought. Honesty is human words. Honesty is human action. And it's also our relationship with Allah and people. All of this has honesty inside of it. It's just not a word honesty, but I'm honest. No. Honesty is more than that. Your thoughts have to be honest. Your words have to be honest. Your actions have to be honest. Your relationship with people and Allah has to be honest at all time. And that is what the true honesty itself is. And it is just more than accuracy. Sometimes we think honesty is accuracy. No. Honesty is just not being accurate. It's more than being accurate. It is more than that. It is more than truthful. Honesty itself denotes integrity inside the life of a person. Honesty shows moral soundness inside a person. And Islam commands us to be truthful and forbids lying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran. And He says, chapter 9, Surah Tawbah, verse number 119. And He says, "O you believe, fear God, ittaqillah, and be with those who are truthful in your words and your deeds." Allah is telling us, fear Allah and be with those who are truthful in their words and in their deeds, because this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi, the great commentator of the Quran, the renowned scholar of the Quran, he explains this verse of the Quran by saying, being truthful and adhering to truthfulness mean that you will be amongst the people of truth and be safe from all the calamities. And that is what will make a way out for you from all your problems. Choosing the partners and of course the closeness of truthful individual. And brothers and sisters, a true believer is the one who's truly submitted to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Has many characteristics by all that they can be identified. But the most obvious of the noble characters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are honesty of his character and truthfulness of his speech, were some of those characteristics that even before Nabuwah, the Meccans knew about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was no Quran, there was no Salah, there was no commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A young man at the age of 25 is already known with such sublime and beautiful character. Even before his prophethood, even before his Nabuwah, even before the Quran was sent, he earned the titles as Sadiq al-Amin, the truthful, the trustworthy. And subhanAllah, Rasulullah himself once gathered at the people of Mecca, and he asked them, look at the honesty of Muhammad that, O people of Mecca, if I was to say that an army is advancing and they're coming behind a mountain towards you, will you believe my words? Meaning, would you take my words for this? So all in one voice, all the people in Mecca said, yes, because you have never told a lie before. Of course we're going to believe you. Honesty was a part of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And all the people, without exception, swore to the truthfulness and honesty because they had lived with the Prophet ﷺ unblemished and extremely pious life for 40 years amongst the people, right? Allahu Akbar. We live, and subhanAllah, this is what we need to gauge for our own selves, of what truthfulness, what honesty that I leave behind for people. Abu Sufyan, radiallahu anhu, before accepting Islam, he said, there was no one on the face of this earth that I disliked more than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after my Islam, there was no one who I loved more than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that happened to many individuals. So he mentions, then when the Prophet ﷺ had sent a letter to the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, because Rasulullah ﷺ had sent many letters, the Rasail, to many of the kings of different areas to invite them towards Islam. So when the Prophet ﷺ had sent a letter to the Byzantine Empire, the king of Byzantine Empire, his name was Hercules, and Harakal. This is the fourth hadith, the third hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. So when the Prophet ﷺ had sent him a letter about Iman and Islam and faith, so this person wanted to cross-check but what this letter was all about. So Hercules sent for a Meccan trader who was around the area of the Byzantine Empire. So they called upon Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu. And he himself was not a Muslim at that time. And he himself said that there was no person that I disliked more than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that time. And now I'm being called by the king of the Byzantine to ask about a letter sent by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man that I extremely dislike at that time. So when he was questioning about the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Sufyan said, I couldn't hold back. Meaning, even if I wanted to lie, but my feelings never allowed me to say it, because I knew that he said to Byzantine Empire, Hercules, he said, he neither tells a lie nor betrays his people. Meaning that's the characteristics of Muhammad ﷺ. For 40 years I have lived with this man, and I tell you that there is no one more honest than this man, Muhammad. He's not a Muslim. And he says, if I wanted, I could have said anything, but I couldn't, because I knew about this man's life. His honesty was such that I couldn't. He neither lies nor betrays anyone. And he bids people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and he orders us to observe salah and honesty and stay away from wrong. Meaning, this is what the enemy is saying, because he has no other thing to say, because of the honesty of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And brothers and sisters, this honesty that we talk about is an essential ingredient in a Muslim's character. Today, wallahi, brothers and sisters, people have never seen a true Muslim in their characters and the true ingredients within their own self. May please forgive me, I talk about myself. I don't talk about you. But my own self, that the people around us has never seen a Muslim with true character. As you must have heard this many, many times, George Bernard Shaw, one of the author, writes, he says, Muslims are in the grave, Islam is in the books, show me something practical and I'll change my life. He said, whatever you tell me is so beautiful. Whatever I hear all the time, it's so amazing. But whatever you tell me is about people who are already in the grave, or whatever you talk about is in the books, show me something practical and I'll change my life. I don't see anything. The only thing I hear about is the things in the books and the things that for the people who have already passed away. If there was anything practical, I wouldn't be the same person. I would change my life. So truthfulness, which not only the word truthfulness, but honesty, integrity, and the climax of truthfulness, brothers and sisters, is a key essential ingredient in a Muslim's character. If you want to build that characteristics of a true mu'min, a person of iman and a true Muslim, there has to be an essential component of something known as honesty. And of course that includes truthfulness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, by worshipping Him sincerely. That's a part of honesty. What is part of your honesty? Honesty entails many things. It means to be truthful to the words of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, sincerely. Being truthful to your own self. And what does it mean to be truthful to your own self? By adhering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands and laws. And being truthful to others by speaking the truth and being honest in all dealings. Buying and selling in our marriages and our relationship. This is all honesty, brothers and sisters. It is not honesty in certain parts of our life and you do whatever you want. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's why I also mentioned marriage specifically. Because that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. That you can never have perfection or greatness of akhlaq unless your spouse does not say you have good character. You go outside your house, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, mashallah, big smile, everyone is so happy. This guy is the most genuine, happy, smiling, good guy with good manners. And you come back home, you have the worst, attitude. A person who gives, our ustad always mentions, Allahu Akbar, may Allah reward him. He says, who in the world will be more worthy of respect? Allahu Akbar. While talking about woman and wife, he said, who in the world will be more worthy of your respect and honor, who presents her dignity and respect to you by one word that you share with her? You say one word and she gives you her izzat and respect. Who would be more worthy in this world to be honored than a woman? That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that your true character can only be given as a witness by your spouse. So honesty means honesty with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord Almighty God. We worship by doing worship sincerely. That's portion one of your sincerity, your honesty. Being truthful to oneself, which means adhering to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and being truthful to others by speaking the truth and being honest in our dealings and buying and selling and marriages in our relationship. And there should be no deceiving, no cheating, no falsifying or withholding of information. Anything that a person should be the same inside and outside as the characteristics of a person of Iman. Right? That is true honesty. The Prophet ﷺ warned us against the danger inherited by dishonesty and the benefits of living in honesty. Rasulullah ﷺ said in one of his hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, he says, truthfulness will lead you towards righteousness. Truthfulness will lead you towards righteousness, and righteousness will lead you towards Jannah and paradise. In addition, the Prophet ﷺ said, a man keeps on telling a truth until he becomes siddiq, truthful. Falsehood leads you towards wickedness and evil doing, and wickedness leads you towards Jahannam and hellfire. And a man keeps on telling a lie till he's written amongst the kadhab, a liar in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your truthfulness, righteousness in Jannah, right? And you're amongst the siddiqeen and truthful in the eyes of Allah. May Allah write us amongst them. And falsehood, dishonesty, and all that leads towards wickedness and wrong deeds, and that leads towards Jahannam. And a person keeps on lying amongst, they are known as kadhab in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, the Islamic society that we talk about, when we talk about Sahaba, and that great life was based upon honesty and justice. And intolerance and dishonesty was not even close to the lives of those individuals, right? And if you talk about the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum, subhanAllah, what was their life? Their life was amazing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before I come to a little bit other portion of honesty itself, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in one of the hadith that I'll quote, that honesty is very important in the life of a believer. And he mentioned in the hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari that honesty descends from the heaven. It comes from the heaven and settles in the roots of the heart of a man, a believer, faithful servant. We ask Allah to give us that honesty that will root inside our hearts. He said honesty, hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, honesty descends from the heavens and settles in the roots of the hearts of the believers. And then the Quran was revealed and the people read the Quran and learned from it, and also learned from the saying of the tradition, both the Quran and the tradition strengthen the honesty of a believer, right? Meaning it's something that remains in the roots of the believer. So brothers and sisters, it's extremely important for us that we as believers always remember and of course understand the importance of honesty itself. I want to turn towards something a little different on related to honesty. And of course, the Quran itself is filled with the details and the importance of honesty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah of the Quran, and He says, mention too in the Quran the story of Ibrahim, where He mentions in Surah Maryam, chapter 19, verse 41, and He says, mentions too in the Quran the story of Ibrahim. He was a man of truth, a prophet of Allah. Meaning honesty was a trait of every Nabi of Allah. Mentioned too in the Quran the story of Ismail. He was true to his promise, a messenger and a prophet. He then says, mentioned too in the Quran the story of Idris. He was a man of truth, a prophet of Allah. Meaning all of these beautiful stories of the Quran reminds us again and again of the great characteristics of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions himself, and he said that no one testifies that there is no Allah, meaning there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. Honesty from their heart, meaning there is truthfulness in their heart. Sidq min al-qalb, meaning there is truthfulness in their heart, but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids Jahannam from their heart. Meaning the foundations of their honesty will make the Jahannam haram upon them. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you must be truthful, and that will lead you towards righteousness itself. So now, brothers and sisters, now what is dishonesty? In order to understand true honesty, what is dishonesty that we really need to avoid in our lives? Dishonesty in words is of course actions of deceit, which Aisha radiallahu anha herself mentioned to us and sort of explained in a little bit more detail. She says there was no behavior more hateful to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam than dishonesty. The mother of the believer is saying that there was no amal, there was no action that the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam disliked about people than dishonesty. A man would tell a lie when speaking in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would not be satisfied until he knew he had repented. Meaning the Prophet ﷺ would feel so much pain for that action. And the Prophet ﷺ made sure that everyone who lied in public had repented. As the sin of false witness, of course, we know indeed is such a great thing. So brothers and sisters, if we ought to have a comprehensive, honesty in all aspects of our life, it is important to have honesty inwardly and outwardly. And that is a very important point. Inside and outside should be full of honesty. Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has mentioned that the virtue of honesty includes truthfulness in one words, deeds, and intention. That's what Imam Ghazali mentions. He says when you really want to change and make yourself honest, you want to make sure that truthfulness is in your words, in your deeds, and even in your intention. And the crux of the matter is that our outward action must coincide with what is this inner stage of our life as well, brothers and sisters. The good words that we are saying and the good deeds we do should be authentic expression of the goodness of our hearts, brothers and sisters. That's honesty. Your inside and outside has to be connected together. Our good words and our good action should relate directly to the inner goodness of our hearts, and that is in our own character. Mutarif rahimahullah ta'ala anhu, the great scholar of his time, mentions that verily when the inward state of a servant matches his public behavior, Allah says, this is my true servant. This is my true abd. This is my true servant. That when his inward state matches his public affair, may Allah make our public and private lives the same, in which He makes them righteous in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the tabi'un mentions, he says that honesty is to be consistent with the truth in private and in public. This is what honesty is. Be honest with Allah. When you are with people or without people, when you're public, when you're private, be honest with Allah. Be honest with yourself. That is the reality and the excellence of truthfulness. Honesty is being consistent in public and private. The reality of honesty is to speak the truth in the matters of grave importance itself. And the heart and the tongue, brothers and sisters, are intimately connected. Our hearts and our tongue are intimately connected. Honest words come forth from a pure heart. If there is honest words, it is connected to an honest heart. It was once said to the Prophet ﷺ, which of the people are the best, Ya Rasulullah? So the Prophet ﷺ said, everyone who has a pure heart and who is truthful in speech. Ya Rasulullah, so the question was asked, O Nabi of Allah ﷺ, which of the people are the best? The Nabi of Allah ﷺ said, everyone who has a pure heart and a truthful speech. And the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah ﷺ, truthfulness in speech we know. But what does it mean to have a pure heart, Ya Rasulullah? How do you get a pure heart? Or what does it mean to have a pure heart? The Prophet ﷺ said, it is a heart that fears Allah and is clean. It fears Allah and it's clean. There is no sin in it, neither aggression, nor malice, nor envy for others. They're honest, they're clean. They don't have hatred for others. And that's why there are so many ahadith of Rasulullah ﷺ that there are certain nights during the course of the year when everyone is forgiven except for people who hold grudges against others, those who are disrespectful to parents, those who make shirk, and those who drink alcohol. Hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. So clean heart, honest heart, pure heart is so important. In another variant tradition of this same hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ said, honesty in speech, truthfulness in speech, and a clean heart. And then he says, and how do we know, what is the sign of a clean heart? The Prophet ﷺ said, a believer with good character. That is a good heart. Because your actions are directly connected to the cleanliness of your heart itself. And as with sincerity, brothers and sisters, the honest heart is one that is not deluded and misled by hatred and malice of others. Our hearts are clean from everyone. That's a part of an honest heart, a clean heart, that our hearts are not deluded with anything that is wrong of other. It is the container of righteousness. May Allah make our hearts the containers of righteousness, brothers and sisters. That heart which is honest is a container of righteousness, full of good character. From good deeds are made, goodwill is emerging, and all the righteous deeds are happening. And to purify the heart, we need to develop it by telling the truth and being honest with those that are around us, being honest with our family, being honest with our friends, being honest with our colleagues, being honest with our neighbors. The Nabi of Allah ﷺ once said, the faith of a servant is not upright until his heart is upright. A person's iman is not complete or not perfect until his heart becomes perfect or upright. And his heart is not upright until his tongue becomes upright. Your life is not complete until your akhlaq are not better. Your heart is not better. Your heart is not correct unless your tongue is not correct. A man will not enter paradise if his neighbor is not secure from his evil. Hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. Making sure that we are honest with each and every person that we deal with. When we are honest with Allah and when we are honest with others, brothers and sisters, we will find that all of our affairs will come together and any problems we will have themselves will go away. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, the great companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wrote to Abu Musa al-Ashri radiallahu anhu saying, and he wrote to him, Umar radiallahu anhu wrote to Abu Musa, and wallahi ajib, these were the people of great character, that they would say that we would love a person who would correct myself, who would rectify my wrong. So Umar radiallahu anhu wrote to Abu Musa radiallahu anhu, and he said, whoever purifies his intention, then Allah will take care of all of his affairs between people. Meaning, Umar radiallahu anhu wrote to Abu Musa, whoever purifies his intention, whoever gets his intention to be corrected and purified, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of his affairs between people. Allah will take care of those. And whoever, puts the people, whoever embellishes for people, meaning whoever shows for people what Allah knows is not in his heart, meaning he shows for the people that is not in the heart of that individual, then Allah Almighty will disgrace that individual. Being honest is so important. Meaning if your intentions are correct, Abu Musa is saying that Allah will correct your affairs between you and the people. Be honest. Allah Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala will correct the affairs between you and the people. Don't worry about it. Even if you feel that the relationships are not, if your intentions are pure and you're honest, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify and clear your conditions. And if you pretend something for others that you don't have in your heart, dishonesty, hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will disgrace this individual. And it's mentioned by Musnad Ahmad itself in one of the narrations. On the contrary, brothers and sisters, dishonesty in heart and mind produces uneasiness for an individual, which can lead to rather a quicker, humiliation of an individual. Why? Because there's so much dishonesty in that heart. So how can we come to the level of honesty? We're coming to the end now, inshallah. I'm not going to hold you for too long. So how do we come to the level of honesty? We talk about honesty, we talk about all these beautiful things. How do we assess our level of honesty? Meaning, where do I stand, brothers and sisters, in the level of our honesty? And I love this saying of Ath-Thalabi rahimahullah ta'ala, and he narrates, Ajib. He says, a proverb, he says, a man does not reach the peak of righteousness, taqwa, until such that were he to place what is in his heart in a plate and go around the market with it and would not be ashamed of anything on it. Meaning a person cannot reach taqwa. A person, Thalabi said, you cannot have taqwa, you cannot have righteousness until you're ready to take whatever is in your heart, put it in a plate and walk in front of the people and would not be ashamed of anything in it. If you're not comfortable enough to show the people what is inside of your heart by walking outside, that means there is no taqwa inside, there is no righteousness. This is what we need to assess for our own self, is that, can I show the people what's inside? Am I honest enough to do this? That if you carry nothing in your heart that would shame you in public, and may Allah make our hearts like that, brothers and sisters, that you have achieved the summit of spiritual climax and excellence. Then you have come to a point. If you're not ashamed of anything that you would have inside of you, wallahi, that has come to a point that a summit of spiritual excellence have been achieved. But most of us, and of course, myself the foremost, nowhere near such a pure state. Nowhere even close to a pure state. Myself, I talk about. And brothers and sisters, the vice and the evil of hypocrisy, like worshipping idols, is divided into much different types of levels. So for example, when we talk about hypocrisy, and against honesty itself, is hypocrisy, which is which is a big hypocrisy, which is kabir, which leads a person to pretend as a believer while they're not. But then there is also a saghir, a small hypocrisy, also is there, when a person has no sincerity and dishonesty in their actions. The Prophet ﷺ said, there are 4 signs of someone with pure hypocrisy, and whoever has them has the characteristics of hypocrisy until he or she abandons it. Hadith of Rasulullah. There are 4 clean and pure signs of hypocrisy. If one doesn't get rid of them, they will remain as a sign of hypocrisy until they do not clean them. And what did Rasulullah said amongst the 4 things? He says, when he or she speaks, when they speak a lie. When they make a covenant, a promise, they are treacherous. And when they make a promise, they break it. And last but not least, when they argue, they are wicked. Meaning, when they get into a fight, they don't hold back. Meaning they go all out. They're wicked when they become angry. So it's possible for a person to have elements of faith and elements of hypocrisy. May Allah protect us from certain conditions in our hearts. And hypocrisy exists in a person, along with a person in all spectrums, and of course a matter of degree, that it can become a part of the life of individuals. That's why it's so important that we need to get rid of this. Sufyan al-Thawri rahmatullah alayhi writes, and he says something so beautiful, may Allah have mercy upon him. He said, you must be honest in all things. Be aware of lying and treachery and sitting with those who commit these actions, for it will be a burden of sin. Be aware, my brother, for the life of this world and deeds, and it is a form of idol worshipping. Be aware of vanity, showing off for good deeds within which is vanity will be not accepted in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So important for us to make sure that there's honesty between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll finish off in just a few more minutes. Perhaps the most important social aspect of honesty, brothers and sisters, is to be faithful for our contracts, our promises, our covenants, and the trust that we have. Our uqood, our wa'ud, our wa'ad, and our promises, and our ahads, and our amanas, all of this we need to be honest for. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and He says it to us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, you who believe, fulfill your obligations. Fulfill the obligations that are upon us. And the word obligation in this verse refers to all sorts of covenants, those between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those between people as well. So as believers, brothers and sisters, we ought to be trustworthy enough to fulfill our words. And that's why Rasulullah said a time will come that a person will walk for place to place and miles to miles and villages to villages, but not even a single person of iman and honesty will be found. Meaning a person will go from one village to another village to another village, but not even one person of amanat and trust will be left inside of them. And that's why the sign of a true believer is to emulate honesty of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who himself was known as by his own people the trustworthy. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The Muslim is the one from whose tongue and his hands the people are safe." And a believer is the one when people trust their lives and their wealth with. If someone can trust their life and wealth with you, that means that there is a sign of iman inside. And of course, similarly, brothers and sisters, it's important that the Prophet ﷺ also said there is no faith for the one who cannot be trusted. There is no iman in a person who cannot be trusted. And there is no religion in a person who cannot hold up to their promises. Hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. There is no iman for one who cannot be trusted. And there is no religion, there is no deen in a person who cannot hold on to their covenants. So it's very, very, very important for us to make sure that we hold on to our truthfulness. I'll finish off with this. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah have mercy upon him, would say, may Allah have mercy on a man who shows me my faults. Meaning, be honest with others too, right? Learn from others. Be truthful inside your heart. If someone is telling you for something to change in your life, be open to that change and make that change towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And truthfulness and truth is often bitter, brothers and sisters. Either listening to it or either saying it to others as well. Then it's often bitter, but it's necessary, like a medicine for us. It's very necessary for us. So that's why it's very important for us that our honesty must remain with us at all times. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us an honest individual. People who are truthful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our iman and our faith. We're truthful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our actions and our deed. We're truthful and honest to the people that are around us. Those that we deal with, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our children, our loved ones, and all of our neighbors and the people that we interact with. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the characteristics of honesty in our life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our gathering. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. We kept on sitting here for about 50 minutes after Fajr. That's great, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us, inshallah. Is time for shuruk here yet or no?
10, 12 minutes.
10, 12 minutes? Okay, good.